Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jayādvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripajaka Charja Ashto Tulasitushi Shrimad AC Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath, Sham Kun Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. So, welcome to all, and thank you to Akendra Prabhu. We're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 353, and in the Western Hemisphere, it's September 1st, Thursday, 2021. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shunobhai Eshab Chaitanya Mahima, Eshloke Kohe Tar Mahimar Shima. My dear brothers, please hear all these glories of Lord Chaitanya. This verse clearly summarizes his activities and characteristics. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tathati Shapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamanam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Tam Sadivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaulangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The verse under discussion is Krishna Varnam Trishad Krishna Shango Pangastra Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Prior Yachantihi Suneda Samak Krishna Dvivarna Shadajar Mukhe Atava Krishna Ke Tiho Varne Nija. The two syllables Krishna are always in his mouth, or he constantly describes Krishna with great pleasure. So the author is giving two meanings for Krishna Varna, two principal meanings. One is that Lord Chaitanya is in the Krishna category. Varna means, among other things, category. So although Lord Chaitanya is not blackish in color, not Krishna in that sense, he's Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, Kaviraj Goswami has given evidence for that previously. So in that sense, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna Varna. But another meaning of Varna is syllable. So Krishna Varna means that these two syllables are always in his mouth, or he's constantly describing Krishna with great pleasure. Krishna Varna Shabder Arta Tuita Praman Krishna Vinutar Mukhe Nahi Aishayam. These are two meanings of the word Krishna Varna. Indeed, nothing else but Krishna issues from his mouth. Yehatare Bole Yadi Krishna Varan Har Visheshane Tare Kore Nivaran. If someone tries to describe him as being of blackish complexion, the next adjective, Tusha Aprishnam, immediately restricts him. Deha Kantye Hoeteho Akrishna Varan Akrishna Varane Kohe Pita Varan. His complexion is certainly not blackish. Indeed, his not being blackish indicates that his complexion is yellow. And we've already heard previously how Gargamuni described the colors in which this child, Krishna, appears. And the missing color, as it were, was yellow. So in that complexion, Lord Chaitanya appears in Kali Yuga. Kaloyam vidvangsha sputam abhijayante tyuti parad akrishnangam krishnam maka vidhibir utkirtanamayai upasyam cha prahur yam akila chaturta shrama jusham sadevas chaitanya Pritir atitaram na kripayatu. By performing the sacrifice of congregational chanting of the holy name, learned scholars in the age of Kali worship Lord Krishna, who is now non-blackish because of the great upsurge of the feelings of Srimati Radharani. He is the only worshipable deity for the Paramahamsas who have attained the highest stage of the fourth order, sannyas. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Chaitanya, show us his great causeless mercy. Purport. This verse is Dvitiya Sri Chaitanashtaka 1 from the Stavamala of Srila Rupa Goswami. So Stavamala is a collection of verses, and there are more than one Chaitanashtaka collection of 8 verses glorifying Lord Chaitanya. So this is the second such set and the first verse. Glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for performing the congregational chanting of the holy name of Krishna, and because of being non-blackish. Why non-blackish? Because the golden color of Srimati Radharani is manifest on account of his transcendental mood. Pratyaksha tahar tapta kanchaner bhuti yahar chatai nashe agana tamastyakti. One can vividly see his glowing complexion of molten gold, which dispels the darkness of ignorance. Chibir kolma shatamo nasha korivare anga upanganam nana ostratore. The sinful life of the living beings results from ignorance. To destroy that ignorance, he has brought various weapons, such as his plenary associates, his devotees, and the holy name. So this is Sangopangastra Parshada. The Parshadas, the associates of the Lord, serve as his weapons in Kali Yuga. In previous ages, he had a disc or other weapons, but in Kali Yuga, his associates like Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Prabhu, and so on are his weapons for destroying the ignorance of Kali Yuga. And the holy name is another weapon, and the beautiful limbs of the Lord, another meaning of Anga is limb. His physical beauty is another weapon because it attracts people to him. Bhaktir virodhi karma dharma va adharma tahar kol misha nam she mahatama. The greatest ignorance consists of activities, whether religious or irreligious, that are opposed to devotional service. They are to be known as sins, kalmasha. In the Bhagavatam, dharma prochita koitavosha, the cheating religion is rejected. So there may be dharma or there may be adharma, but even dharma opposed to devotional service is considered sinful and symbolic of ignorance. Bahutuli hori boli prema drishte chai achai koriya kol mashanasha premete bashai. Raising his arms, chanting the holy name, and looking upon all with deep love, he drives away all sins and floods everyone with love of Godhead. Smitaloka shokam padati jagatam yasya parito gidam tu prarampa kushala patalim pallavayati padalambha kamva pranayati nahi prema nivaham sadevas chaitanya kritir atitaram na kripayatu. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in the form of Lord Sri Caitanya, bestow his causeless mercy upon us. His smiling glance at once drives away all the bereavements of the world, and his very words enliven the auspicious creepers of devotion by expanding their leaves. Taking shelter of his lotus feet invokes transcendental love of God at once. Purport. This verse is Tritiya Sri Chaitanashtaka 8 from the Stavamala of Srila Rupa Goswami. Shri Anga Shri Mukha Jai Kore Darashan Tar Pap Shoy Hoy Pai Prematang. Anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth of love of Godhead. Anya avatare shab shainya shastra shange chaitana krishna shainya anga upange. In other incarnations, the Lord descended with armies and weapons. But in this incarnation, his soldiers are his plenary parts and associates. Shado pasya shriman drita manuja kayai pranaitam vahadpir kirvanair irisha parameshti prabritipi swapaktevya shuddham nidra bhajana mudram upadishan Sachaitanya kimme punarapidrishor yasyati padam. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary men bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotional service to his devotees. Will he again be the object of my vision? Purport. This verse is Pratama Sri Chaitanashtaka 1 from the Stavamala of Srila Rupa Goswami. So these verses are packed with transcendental meaning concerning the glories of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Angopanga Ostra Kore Swakarja Sadhan Anga Shabder Arta Ar Shuna Tiyaman. His plenary parts and associates perform the work of weapons as their own specific duties. Please hear from me another meaning of the word Anga. Anga Shabde Angshakahe Shastra Paraman Anger Avayava Upanga Vakyan. According to the evidence of the revealed scriptures, a bodily limb, Anga, is also called a part, Angsha, and a part of the limb is called a partial part, Upanga. Narayanastram nahi sarva dehinam atmasyati shakila lokashakshi Narayanongam narabhujalayanat Tachchapi satyam natavaiva maya. O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not, therefore, my father, Narayan? Narayan refers to one whose abode is in the water born from Nara, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and that Narayan is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental. They are absolute and are not creations of Maya. Purport. This text was spoken to Lord Krishna by Brahma in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-14. Jala Shai Antarjami Jay Narayan Sheho Tomar Angshatumi Mula Narayan. The manifestation of the Narayan who predominates in everyone's heart, as well as the Narayan who lives in the waters, Karna, Karva, and Kshira, is your plenary portion. You are therefore the original Narayan. So that's paraphrasing the Bhagavatam verse. Anga Shabde Angsha Kohe Sheho Satya Hoy Maya Karja Nohe Shab Chidanandamoy. The word Anga indeed refers to plenary portions. Such manifestations should never be considered products of material nature, for they are all transcendental, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Purport. In the material world, if a fragment is taken from an original object, the original object is reduced by the removal of that fragment. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all affected by the actions of Maya. The Ishopanishad says, Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete. And because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. In the realm of the absolute truth, 1 + 1 = 1, and 1 - 1 = 1. Therefore, one should not conceive of a fragment of the Supreme Lord in the material sense. In the spiritual world, there's no influence of the material energy or material calculations of fragments. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the living entities are his parts and parcels. There are innumerable living entities throughout the material and spiritual universes. But still, Lord Krishna is full in himself. To think that God has lost his personality because his many parts and parcels are distributed all over the universe is an illusion. This is a material calculation. Such calculations are possible only under the influence of the material energy, Maya. In the spiritual world, the material energy is conspicuous only by its absence. In the category of Vishnu Tattva, there's no loss of power from one expansion to the next, any more than there's a loss of illumination as one candle kindles another. Thousands of candles may be kindled by an original candle, and all will have the same candle power. In this way, it is to be understood that although all the Vishnu touchas, from Krishna and Lord Caitanya to Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and so on, appear with different features in different ages, all are equally invested with supreme potency. Demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva come in contact with the material energy, and their power and potency are therefore of different gradations. All the incarnations of Vishnu, however, are equal in potency, for the influence of Maya cannot even approach them. Advaita Nityananda Chaitanya Dvihanga Anger Avayava Gun Kahiye Vanga. Sri Advaita Prabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu are both plenary portions of Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they are the limbs, angas, of his body. The parts of these two limbs are called the upangas. Angopanga Tikshna Ashtra Prabhur Shahite She Shav Ashtrahoy Pashanda Dalite. Thus the Lord is equipped with sharp weapons in the form of his parts and plenary portions. All these weapons are competent enough to crush the faithless atheists. Purport. The word Pashanda is very significant here. One who compares the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the demigods is known as a Pashanda. Pashandas try to bring the Supreme Lord down to a mundane level. Sometimes they create their own imaginary God, or accept an ordinary person as God and advertise him as equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They're so foolish that they present someone as the next incarnation of Lord Chaitanya or Krishna, although his activities are all contradictory to those of a genuine incarnation. And thus they fool the innocent public. One who is intelligent and who studies the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with reference to the Vedic context cannot be bewildered by the Pashandas. Pashandas, or atheists, cannot understand the pastimes of the Supreme Lord or transcendental loving service to the Lord. They think that devotional service is no better than ordinary fruitive activities, karma. As the Bhagavad Gita confirms, however, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, saving the righteous and chastising the miscreants, Prarthanaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Traduskritam, always curb these nonsensical atheists. Miscreants always want to deny the Supreme Personality of Godhead and put stumbling blocks in the path of devotional service. The Lord sends his bona fide representatives and appears himself to curb this nonsense. Nityananda Goshai Sakshat Aladhar Advaita Acharya Goshai Sakshat Ishar. Sri Nityananda Goshai is directly Haladhar, Lord Brahma, and Advaita Acharya is the personality of Godhead himself. Sri Vashadi Parishad Shainya Shanke La Dvi Shena Patibule Kirtana Korea. These two captains, with their soldiers, such as Srivas Thakur, travel everywhere, chanting the holy name of the Lord. Pashanda Dolana Bana Nityananda Roy Acharya Hunkare Papa Pashandi Kalai. Lord Nityananda's very features indicate that he is the subduer of the unbelievers. All sins and unbelievers flee from the loud shouts of Advaita Charya. Sankirtana Pravartaka Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sankirtana Jagyetare Bhaje Chaitanya. Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya is the initiator of Sankirtan, congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. One who worships him through Sankirtan is fortunate indeed. Sheta Shumedhar Kubudhi Sanshar Sarva Yagya Vete Krishna Nama Jagya Shar. Such a person is truly intelligent, whereas others who have but a poor fund of knowledge must endure the cycle of repeated birth and death. Of all sacrificial performances, the chanting of the Lord's holy name is the most sublime. Purport: Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the father and inaugurator of the Sankirtan movement. One who worships him by sacrificing his life, money, intelligence, and words for the Sankirtan movement is recognized by the Lord and endowed with his blessings. All others may be said to be foolish, for of all sacrifices in which a man may apply his energy, a sacrifice made for the Sankirtan movement is the most glorious. Koti Ashrameda Eka Krishna Nama Sham Ye Kohe She Pashandi Dande Tarjam. One who says that 10 million Ashrameda sacrifices are equal to the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna is undoubtedly an atheist. He is sure to be punished by Yamaraj. Purport: in the list of the 10 kinds of offenses in chanting the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hare Krishna, the 8th offense is Dharma Vrata Tyag Bhutari Sarva Shubha Kriya Samyam Api Pramada. One should never consider the chanting of the holy name of Godhead equal to pious activities like giving charity to Brahmins or saintly persons, opening charitable educational institutions, distributing free food, and so on. The results of pious activities do not equal the results of chanting the holy name of Krishna. The Vedic scriptures say, Koko Tidanam Grahane Kavasya Prayaga Gangodaka Kalpavasaha Yagyayutam Meru Suvarna Danam Govinda Kirter Nasamam Shatam Shahe. Even if one distributes 10 million cows in charity during an eclipse of the sun, lives at the confluence of the Ganges and Jamuna for millions of years, or gives a mountain of gold in sacrifice to the Brahmins. He does not earn 1/100th part of the merit derived from chanting Hare Krishna. In other words, one who accepts the chanting of Hare Krishna to be some kind of pious activity is completely misled. Of course, it is pious, but the real fact is that Krishna and his names, being transcendental, are far above all mundane pious activity. Pious activity is on the material platform, but chanting of the holy name of Krishna is completely on the spiritual plane. Therefore, although Pashandis do not understand this, pious activity can never compare to the chanting of the holy name. The value of chanting the holy name of Krishna is emphasized here. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes as the Supreme Personality of Godhead to deliver people, even from the ignorance of pious activity. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna Shango Pangashtra Parshana Yadgyaya Sankirtana Prayar Yajantihi Sumedasi. So let's see what's in the chat box. I see review. It looks like it's mostly text, but there's also more.
There's a comment from Prabeen Prabhu at the end.
Right. It seemed that just by the touch of Mahaprabhu, the living entities would get bhakti, or even the other preachers like Haridas Thakur, Nityananda Prabhu, would turn people into devotees just by a moment's association. Prabhupada had worked very hard to preach, and then only some became devotees. Today, it seems that it takes even more effort to make a devotee than what happened in Prabhupada's time. And even if people become devotees today, they are also not able to follow the high standards followed during Prabhupada's time. So as time progresses, with the potency of the preaching, take more time to bear the fruit and the strict sadhana, more adjusted level, and strict standards, more adjusted level, more adjusted lower, sorry. Well, let us look in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, as we heard, sometimes just by his glance, just by his the loud calling of Advaita Prabhu, people would become devotees. It's described elsewhere, he would just embrace someone and the person would become Krishna conscious. But not always. The stubborn atheists could remain atheists even in the presence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's always that independence. So some accepted him and some didn't. In Prabhupada's time also, as you mentioned, Prabhupada worked so hard to spread Krishna consciousness. But some people, boom, 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 they just became devotees. They came to the storefront, they came to some place where Prabhupada was, and they became practically at once Krishna conscious devotees. And others, it took a long time, and still others are still not devotees. So that, and today also, we see that, by the way, in reading the Vyas Puja homages by Prabhupada's disciples. So many would say that just by seeing you, I could understand that you were the right person. They immediately became Krishna conscious by a moment's association with Srila Prabhupada. Lavamatra Sadhu Shange Sarva Siddhi Bhava. So that was available, but others resisted. And even today, the same thing happens. People come in touch with the Sankirtan movement, and some immediately become devotees. And some hold off and continue to be averse. As far as standards, it's always the tendency for things to degrade. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time, everything was at a high pitch. And after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's departure, things deteriorated. Then Bhaktivinoda Thakur comes, the Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, things get going again. In Prabhupada's time, by the way, it's not that everybody followed the highest standards. There were those who had difficulty and those who had so much difficulty that they left. And today also, there are devotees who follow very strict standards or who are ideal in following regulative principles. And there are those who don't follow, or whose following is inconsistent or irregular or spotty. But one thing is that we should present the standards as they are. The Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement should be presented as it is, and the standards should be presented as they are. When Srila Prabhupada was preaching, he was preaching to people who, practically speaking, didn't accept any of the standards in their life. Intoxicants were their religion. Gambling or idle sports, meat eating also, and illicit sex especially. These were all glorified as liberating, especially intoxication and illicit sex were represented freedom. These were the ways that you got free from humdrum, limited conceptions of the meaning of life. You got liberation by sex and drugs and rock and roll. But Srila Prabhupada, in the midst of this, presented strongly no intoxicants, no gambling, no meat eating, no illicit sex, to a generation deeply opposed to the Vietnam War. Srila Prabhupada presented that war was necessary, that fighting was a necessary occupation. He didn't compromise, nor did he present Krishna consciousness as just another mundane activity, another religious path, another set of pious activities or philanthropic contributions. He presented the thing as it was, without compromise. And those who were seeking the real thing accepted it. So these same things can be there today also. Saraswati. Aho Saraswati.
Pranam Param Puchya Maharaj. Maharaj, I just wanted to share the first time my family and I met Srila Prabhupada, met in terms of saw him. When the Bhaktivedanta Manor first opened up, my father was very opposed to going. He just said, oh, it's run by a bunch of hippies. And especially since that movie, Hare Krishna, Hare Ram, had been seen by a lot of Indian people, they just assumed this is just, a bunch of hippies. They chant, but then they're smoking ganja and whatever was shown in that movie. But my mother was the one who had the open mind. So we all went. Afterwards, my mother looked at my father when we were coming on our way home with her eyebrow raised. And my father's like, well, he's not from this planet, is he? That's why, And my mother's like, no. And my father said, of course not. He comes from the spiritual world. He's not from this planet. But he did his opinion, his initial opinion was completely reversed afterwards. And of course, for me, I was just a young child, but I mean, I'm not going to hide or deny what I felt was that I just wanted to be claimed by Srila Prabhupada. That's what I felt in my heart. And of course, further down the road, when there was some discomfort, when my parents realized that I'm more and more wanting to follow this sampradaya, I used to say to them, well, you're the ones who took me there. You're the ones. So, it's on you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Saraswati. Hare Krishna. Something else? You can read a little more. Anta Krishnam Bahir Gauram Darshitangadi Vaibhavam Kalo Sankirtana Jaisma Krishna Chaitanya Mashrita. I take shelter of Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is outwardly of a fair complexion, but is inwardly Krishna himself. In this age of Kali, he displays his expansions, his angas and upangas, by performing congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami has placed the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, quoted in text 52, Krishna Varnam Tisha Krishnam, as the auspicious introduction to his Bhagavat Sandarbha, or Shat Sandarbha. He has composed this text, 81, which is, in effect, an explanation of the Bhagavatam verse, as the second verse of the same work. The verse from Srimad Bhagavatam was enunciated by Kadabhajana, one of the 9 great sages, and it's elaborately explained by the Sarva Sangbadani, Jiva Goswami's commentary on his own Shat Sandarbha. Anta Krishna refers to one who's always thinking of Krishna. This attitude is a predominant feature of Srimati Radharani. Even though many devotees always think of Krishna, none can surpass the gopis, among whom Radharani is the leader in thinking of Krishna. Radharani's Krishna consciousness surpasses that of all other devotees. Lord Chaitanya accepted the position of Srimati Radharani to understand Krishna. Therefore, he was always thinking of Krishna in the same way as Radharani. By thinking of Lord Krishna, he always overlapped Krishna. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, who was outwardly very fair, with a complexion like molten gold, simultaneously manifested his eternal associates, opulences, expansions, and incarnations. He preached the process of chanting Hare Krishna, and those who are under his lotus feet are glorious. We can stop here and have a little kirtan.
Hey, perfect, Prabhu. Are you there? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Paripuracharya Ashto Tulasatashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Jayādvaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kundagiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. All glory is to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Everybody go. Thank you to all. Thank you especially Apurva, Kamalini, Haridas. Thank you to Patrick for the wonderful kirtan. And thank you all. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. On behalf, Kamalini had cataract surgery today.
Oh,
So she's undisposed. But I was just wondering whether you would consider on the eve of Radhastami doing some kind of I don't know, Radhastami Bhagavatam or whatever. Oh, she's not in the Bhagavatam, but I don't know.
okay, I'll have to think about whether we should do something.
Thank you. All glories to your transcendental sounds, vibration.
Hi.
All glories to you.
Apurva and Kamalini Prabhu has made a wonderful affair of the wedding celebration of my son-in-law and daughter in northern Michigan some years back. For 3 to 4 days, all the participants were feted with the most amazing Krishna prasadam and amazing association of those two great Vaishnavas. It changed my parents' life, it changed my son-in-law's life, and it changed my life. Hare Krishna.
It changed our life too. That was so enlightening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari.
Haribol.
Thank you.
Maharaj.
Thank you,
you.
Gurudev.
Thank you, Yolananda. Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kautiya. And Dagan Shara, Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
His Holiness Jayādvaita Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Hare
Haribol.
Krishna.